My name is Vladimir, and I welcome you to my channel, Two Wars. Rudolf, the son of Hitler's foreign minister Joachim Ribbentrop and a Waffen-SS veteran, wrote a book in his later years titled Joachim von Ribbentrop Never Against Russia, in which he tried to rehabilitate his father. This is his personal take, understood like standard lyrical style found in all Reich officers' memoirs.
We, the soldiers, were just doing our duty, didn't lay a finger on civilians, and didn't know what was happening in the concentration camps, actually.
In this particular video, I really want to focus on another, more important and significant point. The undeniable fact is that the author who wrote this book was already of an advanced age, and he no longer cared at all what the Americans, the English, or the Poles would think of him. Therefore, he wrote everything extremely candidly, without any political correctness, in any way whatsoever. So, here he wrote about the grand geopolitics of the 1930s and 1940s, and this is where all the most interesting stuff lies. Before we move on to Ribbentrop's opinion, let's look at the objective reasons for the Nazi attack on the USSR, despite the already ongoing military conflict with Britain. Why did Hitler decide to attack the USSR and start a war on two fronts instead of finishing off the British? There are three main reasons. The Greeks were weaker than the Wehrmacht on land, but very strong at sea and in the air. To engage in a decisive battle with them, it was first necessary to cross the English Channel. But considering the overwhelming superiority of the British fleet over the German one, Operation Sea Lion would have ended with huge losses in manpower and equipment for the Germans. It would have simply become the first victory. To give you an idea of how bad things were in the Kriegsmarine, the Germans, in all seriousness, actually considered seizing boats from fishermen and civilians, and they also planned to use some transport vessels to ferry their soldiers to Britain. How did that end? Well, I think it's clear to everyone how that would have ended. Indeed, undeniably. A serious prelude to Operation Sea Lion, the potential invasion of England, was the Battle of Britain, a series of massive Luftwaffe air raids that lasted from July 10th to October 30th, 1940. Both countries suffered serious losses in it. The main outcome was the German command acknowledged the Luftwaffe failed to achieve air supremacy and was unlikely to. The Royal Air Force and air defense were too much for Germany. After the Soviet-Finnish War, Hitler and German military strategists viewed the Red Army as a colossus with feet of clay. Huge, but clumsy, that will quickly collapse. This is also how analysts of the Third Reich assess the Soviet ruling regime. He is strong, but his power relies on the fear of the people and will inevitably collapse in their eyes at the first serious military failures. These fatal misconceptions were greatly amplified by the euphoria of success that the leaders of the Third Reich experienced after their triumphant victories in Europe. Hitler planned to defeat the Soviet Union 2 to 3 months, pushing the remnants of the Red Army beyond the Volga and securing the Arkhangelsk-Astrakhan line. Forgetting the vast Russian expanses, the Führer did not even consider a long war with the USSR. Failing in the Battle of Britain and weighing the enormous risks of Operation Sea Lion, Hitler still kept in mind a future alliance with England as racial equals. Moreover, Germany was already forming the European Union in Europe at that time. The Führer believed that after capturing the European part of the USSR, he would force Britain to peace. They had no choice but to acknowledge the dominant role of the Third Reich on the continent and be content with the status of a junior ally to Great Germany. Hitler had a different plan. At any cost, make an agreement with his Spanish friend Franco and seize Gibraltar and then other communications controlled by the English. Then capture of the Middle East and Turkey's entry into the war on the side of Germany, followed by an economic blockade of Great Britain and Luftwaffe air raids. And now, having logically highlighted the main reasons, let's return to Ribbentrop himself. I will tell you about his studies in my own words. Being not an officer but the son of the foreign minister, he recounted in his own words the conversations that took place on the peninsula. The Reich's policies, Fyodor. He was clearly a consistent anti-communist and anti-Semite. Hitler built his entire political career on this ideology, and the conquest of living space for Germans in the East is the programmatic book Mein Kampf. Under him, Germany was regaining its status as a great power, lost as a result of World War I, by writing the popular Western theme of a crusade against Bolshevism. With Hitler's rise to power, he ended cooperation between USSR and Germany since the Rapallo Treaty of 1922. To understand what the relations between the two powers were like before August 23, 1939, the German ambassador saw Stalin for the first time, though he had already been in Moscow for 5 years by then. England and the USA were satisfied with conflict between USSR and Germany, driven by Hitler's push to the east. Moreover, they wanted such a war, but not in the format where the Reich wages a war against communism, wins, and becomes the leading power of the continent, taking Russia's resources for itself. Instead, they wanted it in a way where Germany and the USSR devastate and weaken each other through a prolonged and bloody war. England and the USA drove Hitler. With the West's approval, Germany prepared for war. The economy was fully militarized. Nationalist fervor gripped masses. Stopping was not an option, as it would mean collapse of German economy and fall of regime. Hitler's aggressive intentions regarding the USSR were not actually secrets to Stalin, in fact. He was also intensively preparing for war, but his mistake was in timing, because Stalin thought that the war would not happen anytime soon. After prolonged and unsuccessful negotiations with Britain and France, to which Stalin proposed a military-political alliance against Germany, the Soviets, and under such conditions he took an extraordinary step by signing a non-aggression pact with Germany. The pact between Moldova and Germany. And under such conditions, he took an extraordinary step by signing a non-aggression pact with Germany. The pact between Moldova and Germany. Ribbentrop thus jeopardized it. In fact, England's plans with Esch, and therefore this fact is still remembered even now. With such anger, although they keep quiet about their Munich carpet. According to Ribbentrop, Poland was not an innocent victim. In 1938, it divided Czechoslovakia with Germany, and in 1939, incited by England and France, it rejected a reasonable proposal from Germany on the city of Danzig, which was German, although I think that even a compromise with Hitler at that time would have only delayed the attack. In exchange for a transport corridor, Hitler promised the Poles riches, Lithuania, and rewards at the expense of future conquests in the East. No German politician after the First World War would say that they were ready to recognize the post-war borders with Poland. According to the author, this would have been political suicide, as public opinion in Germany was against any compromises. However, Hitler agreed to this. For a corridor in Danzig, he agreed to recognize these borders. But the Poles, thinking that England and France would fight for them, arrogantly refused and provoked a major war. Poland was prepared by the English to play the role of the victim, but the French avoided the role of the continental sword for the English and Americans. In 1940, when the Germans came, the French did not fight. They decided surrender was simpler. The easy conquest of Poland and the easy conquest of France went to the heads of the general staff strategists and ordinary German generals. Everyone, once skeptical of Hitler's plans for an eastward push, by 1941 no longer doubted their own superiority and the realism of the Führer's concept. The choice of chemical reagents will be discussed later. The Nuremberg court executed Hitler, but the head of the Nazi foreign ministry was cunning and understood that a war with Russia had to be avoided at all costs. As he himself said, never against Russia. But Hitler had other plans in this regard. For example, Guderian in Nuremberg appeared only as a witness, although before the invasion of the USSR he spoke.
My Führer, only on the vast expanses of Russia will the German armored forces be able to show what they are capable of.
It was self-assured warriors who, after Poland and France, convinced the Führer they would crush the Soviet Union in 2 to 3 months. It was not simple and did not go according to the plans of England and the USA. Moreover, Roosevelt himself did not deny that from a technical standpoint, the USA and England had the capability to open a second front as early as the summer of 1942, but he said that they were all monitoring the situation, and were indeed ready to open this front in case of a clear defeat of the USSR, for example. They were closely monitoring the situation and were very ready to open this very front if either the USSR or the Third Reich was on the verge of a clear and definite defeat. But the rush contradicted their plan for a world war, which was primarily supposed to weaken all the warring countries, except of course, England and the USA. Such theses have somewhat shocked the Western public. In fact, it is clear that all this is just the subjective opinion of the author of this book. Whether it is right or not, it's actually up to you to decide. Share your opinion in the comments section below and let us know what you think. Give me a like. Subscribe my channel. All of this will really help its promotion.